Looking to make a little extra cash? We're here to help turn you into a high roller. Betting After Dark starts now. Hey guys, welcome to a new podcast that we're going to be putting out on the After Dark Sports Network. I don't really know what we're going to call it. We're starting a whole new division of podcasts here, but we're going to be doing a new podcast starting today, Betting After Dark, and I'm really excited about this one. This one's going to be going into some sports betting and some gambling stuff. And I'm not the best at that topic, but I brought in a great co-host to help you guys make a lot of extra cash on the side. I'm your host, Calvin Timms, and my co-host is going to be my little sister, Sam Timms. And, she's younger. She thinks she's smarter, but you guys got to bring her down a couple notches. How are we doing today, Sam?
I'm doing good, bro.
Doing good.
Very good.
Yeah. So the whole point of this podcast is, we've got the Dynasty After Dark podcast, which is going through Dynasty leagues, giving you some redraft takes right now as well, helping you guys win your titles in your fantasy leagues. But at the same time, what's really prevalent out there is a lot of people giving bad fantasy or bad gambling advice. Well, there's a lot of bad fantasy advice. Hopefully you're tuning into us and we're helping you win, but there's a lot of bad gambling advice out there as well. And it really bugs me when I see people giving bad advice. I'm not the best gambler, but I know enough to be dangerous with it, right? And that's why I brought in a heavy hitter with my sister here, that she knows a lot more about gambling, and we're trying to give people actionable, good advice on what to do with gambling versus just, throw a parlay on everything, and when you lose all your money that you don't have to lose, it just really upsets me when I see that out there in the fantasy community a lot. So that's why I brought in my sister. She knows a lot, so she's pretty good at gambling. She is a degenerate that way, I guess. But how are we doing today, Sam?
Man, that's so sad. Mom wants to listen to this podcast.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't let her listen to this one. She's gonna smack you after this. But no, it's gonna be a good time. We're gonna start this podcast. This is the first one, so we're gonna be breaking a little bit of ice. We're gonna go through some betting basics. Talking about some of the differences, what the terms are. If you're an experienced gambler and you don't really care, you can jump to the end of the podcast. We're gonna give you specific NFL betting lines that we're gonna be targeting this week. But if you are new to betting, or you think a little bit about it, we're going to give you some kind of a deep dive here, a little bit more advanced intro to betting. And again, you can let us know your thoughts on Twitter. You can find myself at TDC_Calvin. You can find my sister Sam Timms 99 at Sam Timms 99, or you can find this podcast or any of our other podcasts that we're going to have going forward at FF After Dark. So that said, Sam, you want to break us off into the basics? What's the difference between DFS and sports betting?
DFS sucks.
That's
the big difference.
Okay.
But so DFS, in my opinion, is a lot like placing a random parlay.
Okay.
Because you're kind of gambling on putting together an all-star team, and I've never found a lot of value in it.
Right.
And I used to be a degenerate that placed big parlays and was mad when they didn't hit. But now I've stick to straight bets, or I'll do like a 1 or 2 leg of something, and I'm profiting and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So that's what we're going to look at.
Yeah, and DFS, what Sam was saying is not wrong. I learned a long time ago that it's basically you have like no chance of winning except by pure luck in those, because there's people out there that you have DraftKings or whoever, and you have the Millie Maker, right, where you can have 1,000 entries into this one. Well, you have people out there with computer algorithms that just they try to optimize this so much, and they will max out 1,000 $1,000 bets, you with your two lineups is going to have almost no chance to beat a lot of these guys out there. And it's just because they try and optimize it. They'll pick 8 players of the same people and then just switch one guy for 100 different lineups, and then they'll do the same thing with swapping out a different guy. It's so set up against everyone out there, but people look at DFS and like, oh, I can win, I can pick good players. It's not set up for you guys, and that's where sports betting kind of comes in a little bit more handy, that you can, like Sam said, bet straight bets and win a little bit more money that way. So that's what we're trying to help you guys with here today. Now, what are the best places to bet? Because you're a degenerate. Where do you like to place your bets out there?
All right. So I'm not a total degenerate because only 2 sites have my social security.
Okay.
And that is DraftKings and FanDuel. Now, you could be like our cousin where he is placing bets on the most obscure things I've ever heard of. Like Barstool Sports.
Don't bet on Barstool. First thing, don't bet on Barstool.
Yeah. Like, they literally have a sports book, and that's just insane to me.
But yeah, every major casino has a sports book now, right? So I
would say FanDuel and DraftKings are pretty safe. Pretty much, yeah. But like, I don't know that every single one of them has like an app or internet accessibility. I'm not too sure about that.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, so you like to do FanDuel and DraftKings as the primary ones. Is there a big difference between the two?
Yes, so I prefer DraftKings because of its promos.
Okay. What are the promos?
And basically what that means is DraftKings will try to help you out with your bet. Right.
Okay.
DraftKings will try to help you out and basically want you to bet more and bet more frequently by giving you like a 30% boost on any straight bet. For NFL, strangely enough, they've been giving us, well, at least my sports book, because that's the thing too, is everybody's sports book can be different.
Mm-hmm.
And amounts that, like max amounts, can be different.
Mm-hmm.
So every week for NFL, I've been getting a $25 no sweat bet for every game. I shouldn't say every game, but like one game a day.
Mm.
And so that's been something, like FanDuel doesn't offer as many promos as that, and there's not as much value in them as what DraftKings can offer you.
Okay, that's pretty nice. Now, when you're on DraftKings, for example, and if you're watching on YouTube, again, I encourage you guys to go check this out on YouTube. I think we're going to be a primarily YouTube-focused or Rumble, but a primarily video-focused podcast, so make sure you guys go check that out. But on YouTube, or you can see here, I've got the DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm not logged in, so I'm not going to be placing any bets here today, but you can see when you log in, there's a lot of different options for bets. And this is where the real, you can really get into the weeds here. But you've got spreads, you've got totals, you've got over-unders, money lines, all this different stuff. So I just wanted to quickly go through all the different types of bets that you can kind of make. So, we talked about parlays a little bit, but a parlay is when you take multiple different bets and you combine them together. And again, if you're an experienced sports bettor, you already know this, but this isn't really meant for you guys. But for all the new people out there, a parlay is where you take multiple different bets. Like if you're on YouTube, you can see here the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Buffalo Bills. They have a plus 200 for the Jacksonville Jaguars to win that game. You take that plus 525 for the Giants to win against the Dolphins on Sunday. You combine those two together. You need both of them to hit. And if you do, you get very high odds because they're multiplicative odds, right? But the odds and the percentage that you're going to hit both of them drops down considerably, right? And you can add more and more and more things to a parlay. Like you can do enough things on a parlay that if you hit them all, you could turn $1 into $1 million. But it's just you'd have to bet so many different things, and any one thing could bust your parlay. So that's a parlay. Now, can you quickly go through spread, over-unders, money lines, the difference between those?
Yeah, sure. So spreads are I would say the best way I could describe that is with an example. And so, like the Bills and Jags spread happening on Sunday morning, that is the Bills spread is minus 5.5. So basically, what it's saying there is that the Bills, if you bet on that, you're betting that the Bills win by 6 or more points.
Okay.
And then on the Jags side, if their spread is at plus 5.5, so that's where it gets tricky, a little trickier to understand with sports books. So what that's saying is kind of like a double chance. The Jags can still lose, but they have to lose by less than 5.
Less than 6. Right. So if it's plus 5.5, they can lose by up to 5.5 points. So if they lose by 5, you win. If they lose by 6, you lose, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And that's where like you have to be careful where like spreads change a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be careful that like, oh, a community might be on a spread that's at like 10.5, but it could change to 11, and that's probably not a bet you want to place then.
Right, and half a point in a spread can be massive, right? Like spreads are some of the most delicate ones to bet on. Is that right?
Yes.
They can make you a lot of money, but yeah, they're dangerous.
Well, and I would say like a half a point in any kind of betting is a lot more important than what a lot of people would think.
Sure.
Because when we talk about props, like a half a point in prop is really important.
Yeah, for sure. Now the over under. Now, what exactly is the over under? This one's a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, this is way easier, especially for anybody. Because in my opinion, anyone getting into a sports book is into sports already. So the over under, if somebody says, hey, I'm going to take the over and it's at 43, that means that the total points for the game that you're watching are going to be over 43. If somebody says, hey, I'm taking the under, that means that the total amount of points scored for the game is under 43.
Right. So that one's a little bit more straightforward. And then money line is just who's going to win the game, right?
Yeah.
And now this is where it gets a little bit more tricky. So again, if you're watching on YouTube, just using the Jags versus the Bills as an example. And Sam and I confirmed this math before we went into this. But the Jags are plus 200 underdogs in that game. So anytime you have positive money, plus 200 means if you bet $100, you win $200 on top of that. So if you bet $100, you would take out $300. Negative odds means you need to bet $245 to win $100. So, if you bet if you were wanted to bet the Bills to win the game, you'd have to bet $245 to win, to take out of your DraftKings account $345. You'd only be up $100. So that's not necessarily a bad thing to always bet the favorite, but it's just not great money in it, versus the plus odds where, you bet $100 and you can double, triple, whatever your money. Now, on the money line specifically, the biggest thing to understand, and this is from Sam and some other people that are big in the gambling world, is understanding the implied odds with these money lines. And, you take the Jags at plus 200. When you do the calculation for that, it basically is saying that the Jags have a 33% chance to win this game. And it's saying that the Bills have a 57% chance to win the game at minus 245. Now, you add those together, it's not going to equal 100. That difference there is actually the sports books, their piece of the pie, essentially. Like, they're guaranteed a certain percentage of this bet regardless, right? That's how they make their money. But if you feel strongly that the Jaguars, for example, they have closer to a 50% chance of winning versus a 30%, that's a massive indicator that you should be betting the Jags plus 200. It's not always necessarily a bad thing for someone to be a heavy favorite or a heavy underdog. It's just you have to understand the odds that are built into it, and how to read the odds, and then what you personally believe is the actual chances of those teams hitting that way, essentially, right?
Right. Like, I would say a big thing with just getting into sports betting in general is you really want to place bets where you find a lot of value.
Right. Right. And this is all, we can give you advice on what we think is good value, but ultimately it comes down to you as well. And you have to kind of have an educated guess or a gut feeling, like a very strong gut feeling on some of this stuff. Like, I don't think the Jags have any chance to win, so I am not taking that bet. We'll talk about another bet here on Sunday that I would feel very comfortable taking a money line bet, for example. But, you have to feel good about it, and you have to believe that it can happen. In the NFL, anything can go. None of these are set in stone. It's entirely possible that the Bills go out there and blow it, right? And they lose to the Jaguars. Jaguars have been in London for 2 straight weeks. You can make the argument for it. But at the same time, it's not one that I feel strongly enough about to risk that money, essentially, right?
There is so much that goes into making an actual bet.
Right, exactly. And Vegas is very, very good at this, right? They've kind of proven that over the years, right? That's how Vegas always wins, right? But the biggest thing too. Now you talked about people that are starting gambling. I think the biggest thing, and this is the hardest thing for me to understand, right, is units. All the people out there talk about, I'd bet 2 units, and can you talk about like what is a unit exactly, and like how you determine that?
Well, and that's what's tricky too, is like some people, their definition of 1 unit is different from another person's idea of what 1 unit is. But most people, I roll with 1 unit as $10.
So I've understood a unit, like, so it all depends on your bankroll, right?
Exactly, yes.
So like if if you're not well off, or you want to start slow, let's say you put $100 into DraftKings, is a unit like 1%?
No. One unit would be 10%.
10%. Okay. So like
but I also could be wrong on this, because I never talk in units.
Okay.
And I don't ever bet in units off of my bankroll. Yeah, because I withdraw so much too that like I don't have like a steady bankroll that's the same number.
I gotcha. Now I have heard from some other people that the best way, if you're going to do this, like if you're going to do it consistently over a year, not to do that, essentially, not to withdraw all the time. Like if you want to maximize your returns, you just let it ride until the end of the season, right? Because, after the way that I was explaining this, and you can kind of speak on this a little bit better than me, but like, let's say you start with $100 and you bet 1 unit, whatever that, and I think a unit is I think the problem is it's so vague is because it's different for everybody, right? Like if you're comfortable betting $5 as 1 unit, that's your unit, but you need to stick to that, right? You're not going to bet 20 units, right, on one game. You're going to set 1 unit, 2 units, so $10, right? But if you win, right, let's say you win, let's say you bet on the Jaguars, you win $20 in that game. Now you have $120. Your unit changes to, instead of being $10 for 1 unit, it's now $12 for 1 unit, and you just continue to bet it that way. So I've heard the most efficient way to make a lot of money in season is to just let it ride. But again, what Sam's saying is, like, if you want to keep it $10, you can do that and just withdraw, if you win $20, you can withdraw that 20 and keep it at 100 and just keep betting 10. So that's entirely up to you guys on how you'd like to do that.
Yeah, I would say like that statistically, that is probably what a lot of people try to do. But the big thing with it is it's a gambling thing, and gambling can be very addicting.
Yes.
So the
Chasing,
moment
right?
the moment moment you could lose something, you could rage bet something totally ridiculous and then lose even more.
Right. So the one thing too, and with this being a gambling podcast, you have to be responsible if you're going to do this. And if you're going to gamble, you have to know when to walk away. If you're somebody that you don't think you can do that, do not bet, please. I
No.
highly recommend it. I used to gamble, like the DFS stuff, and I would rage bet because I would try and chase it. And I lost a couple $100 back years ago because of the DFS stuff. And it's just like, you will not be in a good place if you try and chase stuff. So you have to be responsible. That's going to be, I'm not your parent. I'm not going to tell you constantly to watch what you're betting, but you just got to be careful out there. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like any kind of addiction. If you think that you are someone who can get easily addicted to something, stay away.
Right. Yep. Yep, I'm with you. So I think that's pretty much it. The only other thing that they really have that, we're going to talk about here today is some player props, for example. And this is where you said you really like DraftKings for their player props. And if you're on YouTube, you can kind of see this, but, passing props here, over, under, go ahead.
I'm a big quarterback prop player.
Okay. So, for example, if I look at the Jags versus the Bills, it says Josh Allen over 1.5. Is that touchdowns, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Passing. Oh, yeah, I'm on passing TDs. So, yeah, that makes sense. But, yeah, you can find a lot of value in player props. I've seen that. Sleeper has this as well. You can bet on Sleeper a lot for those kind of things. But I've heard player props can make you – sometimes things are very, very misaligned, right?
Right. I would say that like player props is where you can find a lot of big value for straight bets.
Okay, great. Do you ever do parlays with player props, or is it still just as risky?
So I would say the only time I ever do parlay for, so the only time that I personally ever do like a parlay is if I have a no sweat bet, which is like $10 on DraftKings. If it loses, I get it back.
Okay, gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah. So when I first started like this whole thing, I would like place these crazy parlays and I'd be like, oh man, why aren't these winning? And I'd get so mad.
Right.
But then I realized like that you had to do straight bets. And so now if I'm looking to make profit, I only do straight bets.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. So is there any other basics that we need to cover here, or do you want to get into a couple of actual bets?
I would say one basic, like with me talking about promos in the no sweat bet. So if I place a $10 no sweat bet, I get that $10 back, but I have to use that $10 in DraftKings.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Yep. And like I have to win it back. It's not just $10 back into my bank account.
Gotcha. Okay. I gotcha. So it's like basically getting like.
So you still have to be careful with.
It's basically like Cole's Cash, right?
Yeah.
You're getting Cole's Cash for betting on the site, but.
Yeah, it is. That's a great analogy. That's good.
So, all right. Well, let's go into a couple of actual bets now. Again, we're going to work on this over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be following this up. Every Saturday, we're going to be putting out more episodes, going more in depth in actual betting lines and things like that. Some of the best lines we like for the weekend. But as of right now, one that really stood out to me, and this is something that, again, I'm not the biggest bettor, so this one just really, really stood out to me as a massive money line straight bet that I would be betting, and I probably will. I'm probably going to, with you guys, just to track some of the success. I'm probably going to put $1,000 into DraftKings here after we get off this podcast by the game start on Sunday, and I'm going to start using some of the bets that we have and we recommend just so we can track it the entire season, and you can see some of the success from it that way, right? I'm not going to withdraw after every week. I'm going to keep it and just let it ride. If I run out of money, and we're not a very good gambling podcast, but I'm going to try and be disciplined and not rage bet anything. But one of the biggest ones that stood out to me was the Eagles versus the Rams money line. And this is for Sunday in the NFL. The Eagles are going to the Rams, and the Eagles undefeated right now. Rams are 2-2, but this just felt so crazy to me. The Eagles are minus 205 favorites versus plus 170 underdogs for the Rams. Now, when you actually do the implied odds, again, like I talked about, there's calculators out there that you can use to kind of calculate this. There's also an equation, but I don't want to bore you guys. But if you want that equation, hit me up on Twitter at TDC_Calvin. I'll link it to you. But essentially what this is saying is the Rams are 30% likely to win this game, and the Eagles are 67% likely to win this game at minus 205. 67%. The Rams are getting Cooper Kupp back. The Rams have looked really, really good. They barely lost to the San Francisco 49ers, and I forget their other loss, who they lost to. But both of their losses were very, very close. And the addition of Cooper Kupp with this offense, the Eagles have a very battered secondary. I think 67% is just way too high favorite on the Eagles in this game. And, plus 170 means you only have to bet, you get $170 if you win. It screamed value to me. And again, this is what we're kind of talking about. Like this one right here, just scream value. And I'll probably be betting a couple of units on it here this weekend as well. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good bet. I don't personally like to bet anything that involves Matthew Stafford.
That's fair.
But I think the Eagles' time is coming. Like they're not the team they were last year, and yours is very more like statistical with it as far as like the probabilities and stuff. I don't normally play that route.
Sure.
But based off of like how the Eagles have been playing and how they almost choked the Commanders last week, they're not going to stay undefeated, and the Rams could be the team to do it.
Yep, that's how I'm looking at it personally. So, it just felt like good odds. Again, you don't have to bet $100, but pretty good odds, plus 170. So, do you got any bets, or you want to go to player perhaps?
Well, yeah, I would say so. Money line bets. I think that the Colts line doesn't look too bad.
Okay.
I think the Colts are pretty underrated, but I think they're doing big things. And Jonathan Taylor, is he back or?
He should be back. We'll find out tomorrow at noon. I think at 1 o'clock. That's when Shane Steichen will announce if he's part of the 53 or if he's still on IR for another week. But everything that's been out in the media, and again, this is a fantasy perspective, but everything out there says JT has said that the money issues are an off-season problem. He's not going to worry about it in season, which you love to hear.
And he wants to be there for his teammates.
Yes, and he's been coaching his guys up behind the scenes, and him and Shane Steichen had a good conversation behind the scenes. So it sounds like they're going to play him, and they're going to use him a lot when he is healthy. So I think he's going to play, and for the Colts to be the underdog against the Titans, who have looked terrible, I'm with you.
Yeah, and I mean, the Colts have pulled off some really good wins.
Yes. I mean, they beat the Ravens, right? The Ravens have a way better offense than the Titans.
Yeah, and so that's why I feel like there's some good value there. I also really like the Texans money line value.
Versus the Falcons,
especially against the Falcons.
Right.
Yeah, I just do not see the Falcons' offense is just a disaster, so I don't see them being able to keep up with CJ Stroud personally.
Yeah, I will say the only downside on that, the Falcons' defense is very much improved over years past, so just one thing to keep in mind. But the way CJ Stroud looked against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, who do have a really good defense, I'm with you. I like that odds. But again, you don't really like doing the money lines as much. You like player props more, right?
I do like player props more, but I will do money lines if I like them. I really like that Texans and Colts one.
Fair enough.
But like I said, it would be a straight bet for me.
Okay. what are some of the player props you like for this week?
Okay, so player props. Texans, Falcons. What a player prop that so there's a lot of lingos with sports betting.
Mm-hmm.
One lingo is a hammer, put the hammer to it. That just means, you're gonna gamble a little bit more than what you might normally.
Okay.
And something that I'm gonna be hammering this week is CJ Stroud passing yards. They only have it at over 247.5. And that's at minus 115 odds. And like I said, DraftKings, I have a boost for like 30% that I could get plus 120 odds.
Oh. Wow.
CJ Stroud's last 4 games, so he threw 306 last week. The week before he threw 280. Week before that he threw 384, and his first week he threw 242. So to have those kind of odds for a very solid quarterback against a not very solid team, especially just with, like you said, how good he did against Pittsburgh's defense. I feel like Pittsburgh puts a lot of pass pressure like on the quarterback.
Yes. Yep.
Just with TJ Watt and everything up there. But I think that's just it's almost like a no-brainer for me. He's only missed that line by 6 yards, and it was his very first game as an NFL quarterback.
Right. Yeah, and I believe it was a tougher matchup in week 1 too. I don't have it up right in front of me, but no, I like that a lot. And
it was the Colts. It was the Colts week 1.
Ah, that's right. And the Texans and the Colts always play close for whatever reason. But we just talked about this one for the money line, but Anthony Richardson over under 213.5. I actually do like that a little bit more. For the same reason. Now, Anthony Richardson is not some otherworldly passer, right? But the Tennessee Titans have a very good defensive front, and just like I was talking about with the Eagles, right, against Stafford, their secondary is pretty soft. You can throw on the Titans pretty well, and I think that 213, it would not shock me if they have to run through the air essentially against Tennessee, and I think Anthony Richardson could get it done. So that one was a little bit interesting there, but But yeah, no, there's a lot of player props you can see. Is there any others that stand out to you?
So I don't really have any more player props, but I do have team props.
Okay.
So very far in the DK world, if you keep scrolling on a certain game, you'll end up at team props. And I like team props a lot. I've made a lot of money on team props.
Okay.
But one that I like that's very obscure is for the Bills and Jags game. And that's for the Bills to have the longest touchdown at DK boosted to plus 107 odds. If you don't have a boost,
where do you find that actually?
So if you click on the Bills Jags game,
you click on it you just click on it?
Yeah, if you were gonna look at player
I gotcha.
props, and you can keep scrolling. Yep.
Yep.
And you should see team props. Yeah. What I like for that one is for the Bills to have the longest touchdown. I feel like that, compared to the Jags, would be relatively easy for Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen to get done.
Yeah, or Gabe Davis. He's kind of that burner type too, right?
Yeah, for sure. I just see the wide receivers with the Bills. And it could be a 20-yard touchdown, but it's still longer than the Jags 11.
Sure. No, I like that.
So
go ahead.
So that's a team prop I like a lot for the Bills and Jags. I don't know if they're doing that Toy Story stream again.
I don't know. I haven't seen anything on it, but
the highlights for that are hilarious.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. No, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's one I really like. I also really like the Panthers Lions.
Panthers.
And that's also at 1, I think. The Lions are incredible.
They're fun.
Yeah, they are killing it.
They're fun to watch.
They're fun to watch.
Yeah.
But a team prop that I really liked was the Lions, or no, I'm sorry, the first quarter total to be over 7-5. I feel like that it would be so easy for the Lions to get the ball, score a touchdown,
Over 7.
take the ball from the Panthers ridiculously fast, score another touchdown. Yeah, over 7.5.
So how do you?
Yeah,
I guess I'm confused
so an easy
there.
first touchdown.
Really quickly.
Okay.
So like you're saying that you would be betting that the Lions would be scoring over 7.5?
Well, the total is 7.5.
Oh, so that's total points scored
in the first quarter, yeah. But I think it would all be Lions.
Yeah, I got you. So it's not. So on DK, it's a little confusing. Again, I'm not the most familiar with it. It looks like it's saying over under, like over Panthers 7.5, under Lions 7.5. But you're just saying that is just for the whole quarter.
Yeah, that's just the total.
Oh wow.
Total points for the first quarter.
Gotcha.
I feel like a touchdown and a field goal is easy for a first quarter in Lions Panthers.
I mean, yeah, considering the Lions had 27 points in the first half last week, so
right. And the odds for that is minus 105.
So it's basically free.
That's
right?
a lot of value to me as a bettor. Yeah, like that's the kind of, I would say too, like for any of you guys getting into gambling and sports betting, find a Discord with sports bettors that you like.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much lingo you learn. There's so much in general, like picks you'll learn to look for. And it's just like I own one that has like 60-some members, and it's just a good vibe in there. And a lot of times we joke with each other and we're like, yep, that's free.
Gotcha.
So something like that I would say is free.
We might have to talk about, bringing that over to the After Dark podcast network,
Oh, I have some buddies in there that are hilarious, and they've been doing this kind of stuff for like 5+ years, and they're just geniuses at it.
Okay.
Like they're the kind of person where like they bet on soccer, and I just blindly tail what they bet.
Fair enough. That's what
bet because it almost always wins.
Yeah, that's what one of my other buddies, he has the same thing. They have like a baseball betting one, and it's just like they've made thousands of dollars on betting baseball. They have a whole algorithm with it. Like I guess baseball, it's so mathematical that you can actually like statistically break that one down to the best bets. So it's pretty nice.
I don't really baseball bet until it's World Series time, because they play so many freaking games that like
right. But
happen.
Yep. So, all right. Well, that is a few bets that we like. Again, this one was more geared towards first time betting, some of the intros to betting, but we're going to be back next week with a little bit more. And the nice thing about this is we can do this year round. Once baseball or soccer or basketball starts to roll in, we can definitely keep this going. We're going to continue with the bets, and we're going to give you guys more advice as time goes on. If you like this, please, again, hit us up on Twitter at TDC_Calvin for myself, at SamTims99 for my sister here. Hopefully next week she'll have a camera so we can show you guys our ugly faces. Well, my ugly face, and she's not too bad, I guess.
Don't look alike.
Yeah. But you can find the podcast at FF After Dark. Again, you can find this podcast, Betting After Dark. You can find the Dynasty After Dark over there. And if we kick off any other After Dark podcasts, you can definitely find them over there as well. But we appreciate you guys checking this out. Hopefully you guys like this podcast. Hit us up in the comments down below. Give us some feedback. Like, comment, and subscribe to the video if you like what we're doing here. And we're going to be putting out a lot more content for you guys. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy it. And until next time, Sam, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you guys get into this kind of thing, I can start posting looks that I have on Twitter, because obviously I have way more. I get into NFL betting like nobody's business. You can ask my husband. And yeah, this is just super exciting to do with my big brother. So thanks, guys.
Yep. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And until next time, have a good night.